From Magic spoof commercials to some of the wackiest homebrews and sometimes breaking the format, our next guest has become synonymous with the Pauper format, campaigning for it for years and becoming a centerpiece of commonality in the format. Of course, I'm talking about the only legendary and Pauper himself, Deluxeicoff from Pauperganda. We sit down to talk about his start in Magic and content creation, his time as an editor, how he brews, and of course the Pauper format, all while we shuffle up and battle in this week's player profile. All right, so today we have the one and only, the legendary Pauperganda Deluxeicoff. What's up?
There's no legends in Pauper.
Not yet. You think it's going to happen?
I'm a common folk. No, I'm sorry. I just couldn't help but put a bad dad joke in there.
You think we're going to get a legend in Pauper? You think it's ever going to happen?
I would say yes. As things keep going. Let me mulligan this. All right, that's much better. Yeah, the way they've slowly rolled things out, and whether it be just the power structure and what's being allowed at common now. It's I remember back in the day when lightning bolt, they swore up and down it was never going to be made for like outside of like legacy or all that, and then it's just a pretty good spell.
Right.
It's weird how things times get pretty crazy. Let me do that.
So I figure we can start off with when did you get into Magic and how did you get into Magic?
I got into Magic. I walked in on a huge, I think it was like Fallen Empires mixed with the Dark or something, and there were like 10 people playing a 10-player game. There are pennies all over all these cards, and it was so confusing, and I left thinking, like, what a crappy game. Who would ever want to play that, And so my friend, my old co-host of Pauperganda, Chris, also known as Little Fight Online, he was like, no, I know you're gonna really like this game, and I know you, and he does, and he goes, the purest form of it's one-on-one, and so we sat down, and I got bit pretty fast. I think the first thing I did was like a dark ritual into a mind stab throw, and then attacked and blew up his hand, sort of thing. And whoo, that was fast. There comes Thorn, just like that. It's like right on cue with what I was talking about. But and then I got my circle of friends into it. We just went out, and at the time it was 1994. Magic's been out maybe like 1 year, and all the local stores and stuff were had their cards and stuff, and nobody quite understood what a deck was, how to build stuff. I mean, this is back in the day when people were like, what do I need a Mox for? I've got lands. I don't need this, extra card. Mm-hmm. And there's, just a lot of funny stories like that. If anybody watches my stream on Pauperganda, every once in a while, I'll regale people with, these old testaments of like the Summer of the Skull. Like that was still, you have to remember back before the internet. And so people just didn't know what was even rare. Everything was just a dark symbol. And then Inquest and a few other magazines started coming out and educating people and things like that. But I remember the Summer of the Skull, Necropotence was in the crap rare pile in this little town that I was from. And they were selling them for like, $4 for $1 or something. I'm like, okay. So I collected up a bunch of them. About once a week, I would go down to the big city and sell them for like $15 or whatever they were going for at the time. And between Necropotence that summer, pretty much paid my rent. We had very, very low rent back then. And then there was, I also used to play for Ante, and that's kind of a waste of time. But so we created this thing in our little town called Forced Ante, and you would just go through and agree on what you would play for, like find equal valued, rares or whatnot. And you would play for those. But, and thus became my, love fest with Contract from Below. I just adored that card. Being able to draw 7 cards for pretty much 1 mana and reset your hand and just add like sometimes a swamp to your your anti pile. So yeah, those are some really, it was like the Wild West back then. I still miss playing for Ante. There was just something cool about it.
Okay, you jacked the Monarch, so it's gonna be that was kind of my big play.
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of hurt on land.
All the eggs in the basket. Sometimes I really like the a couple years ago now, maybe even more like 6 or 7. Mono black land destruction was a thing, and
That's
you
what
know,
I'm
God,
playing.
when that deck works, it's so beautiful. But God, it would just hiccup so much. I mean, not since I think that probably one of the weirdest what you call cursed decks, not meaning like a spell, but just literally I've found to be is White Weenie. I find has just atrocious draws. Like you can have like 24 lands in there, like 4 secluded steps, and you'll get screwed. And then if you know, or you know, you get screwed or flooded, and there's just no rhyme or reason to just like any of it. It drives me nuts. But, all right, we'll see if you're willing to pay the life. I'll go for death here. Big drum roll. So yeah, I got really into the game, and my friends. I'm just gonna crash in here. I'm a bit as community friendly as I am and stuff. When I get kind of in a competitive mindset, I'm not the best guy to be around, especially back then when I had a little bit more testosterone in my blood. So unfortunately, as many people as I brought to the game, my friends, you know, I was a little bit too what they called hardcore to you know, put up with or whatever. And so I kind of chased a few of them away. There's a few that are still in it. And we still have a great time playing and stuff. But yeah, when it came online, I was right there with the beta, and had what was it? No, you can't attack. This is my favorite place with these serrated scorpions.
I'm pretty dead.
I got online and just used an old chess moniker nickname, and used to just bring my computer to work, or actually loaded it at work when I worked at CBS, and I would just sit there and trade for cards. And I mean, it was a completely different program back then, and built up my collection that way, you know, 8 hours a day online or whatnot. And then maybe about a year into it, around 2003-ish, 4-ish, I think, I saw something on by a player known as Some Old Guy, and he had speaking of White Weenie, it was a White Weenie list with like was the Order of Letbure and all that. And this is long before, you know, Suffocating Fumes and all these amazing cards that just kind of laugh at those things. But it was a lot of fun. I got into it, started getting really competitive, and immediately just realizing like, wow, I'm making quite a little bankroll here, because I used to play I was quite the grinder for about a decade, and Tron really turned me off to that. I just got so tired of flicker loop combos and stuff, and I thought it was just going to be for a temporary while, and I don't know, I just got the same thing out of just kind of hanging out and chatting with people and having fun. I'm sure I'll get back to it one of these days. I just want to dive in head first. You know, I had a little stint when I made the deck brute squad. I went on, I don't know, I entered like 5 or 6 leagues, and it was like 10 leagues, and I won like 6 almost back to back. And then, but then they printed Fiery Cannonade, and you know, there's plenty of answers for that, but you got to have them right then and there. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you know, a lot of strategies can get wiped out that way. So that was a little lesson. But that was probably the last time I really kind of went on sort of a run. And, you know, every once in a while I'll jump in. I'm talking like once every 6 months and play a league, but I don't do it too often anymore. Keep this.
I'm going to keep 2. Then.
But yeah, if anybody isn't aware of Pauperganda or whatever, I just really wanted to kind of spread the word about the format and kind of use my I've got a movie trailer background, and I had just a lot of silly ideas. I think the first one was Gin and Tonic, you know, with the DJINN, and made, you know, my friends online and stuff laugh, and they're like, yeah, to do something with that. And so came up with, I mean, the original Pauperganda was just this really over the top like space adventure show that everybody missed, and I was probably a little too I don't know, overzealous in my ability to think like what other people would understand and whatnot. And and it was an incredible endeavor. I mean, we were there you go again, man. Look at this turn 2 stuff. I got the quick creature this time. Maybe I'll hold it. But anyways, we had a good run of about 2 episodes. They're about 20 minutes long. You can find them somewhere online. A little cringy now. I mean, there's a lot of it I'm proud of and stuff. But then I was left with like, oh man, I've got this thing, and this show, and everything's feeling like kind of just well thought. All the legwork was done, and I was like, and then I was asking around, and everybody was just like, do we just want to, have your sideboard tech, or you blah blah blah, or just stream? And so for the longest time, I would do a league live. Whether we've had varying times over the years. I've been doing it like 7 or 8 years now. I can't quite remember when we started, but I'm just trying to be super consistent and just keep bringing the fresh ideas. And it's funny, every once in a while I'll think like, you know what, I got to play some established thing and just, smash somebody. Because, when you play a lot of Rogue, a lot of times you'll crash and burn, and you learn, but it makes for just such a better show. And the numbers stand by that. Like if I played after I made Boros Boli, and then after that took off and became kind of mainstream, whenever I would play Boros Boli, God, the ratings would just plummet. It was just like, it'd be like,
it anymore.
Yeah, it'd be, I don't know, 6,000-7,000 views on this one video, and it's like Boros Boli, and everybody claims that they wanted to see it, and then it's like, this might not be the best move with Land Destruction across from me, but and then it'd have like 1,800 views when all was said and done. And I'm just like, what's going on here? So I kind of learned like the quirky stuff. People kind of want to see those combos. Like I just posted on our community tab in YouTube. I just got killed. Oh man, this is gonna be over quick. I just got killed the most beautiful way today. I was playing my aggro frog list that I think we played against each other last night.
Yes, that list is sweet. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably be playing it this weekend's show, and made a few changes here and there, and my opponent was kind of playing something similar. Big surprise, he follows the show and stuff, but he killed me with Retraction Helix, Steelfin Whale, Ornithopter, and Tooth of Chiscora. And if you put those cards all together, you'll see a pretty nasty little combo. So pretty much he cast Retraction Helix on the whale, would throw down Chiscora, activate it on Ornithopter, tap the whale, return Chiscora, play it, which untaps the whale, tap the tooth, so he could just make the Ornithopter hit for 20 artifact damage in the air. It was beautiful.
That's awesome. You kind of answered a couple questions I had there, because one of them I wanted to ask you.
I get pretty diuretic of the mouth.
You're good. One thing that I find really cool about your channel is those movie, like the what's the word I'm trying to say, the commercial spoofs.
Yeah,
I find those really, really cool, and they're really fun to watch. So
I appreciate it. They take a lot of work.
They look like they do. So that's what I was wanting to ask you was, one is like, how much time does it take to create that? Like, what is kind of your creative process behind that? And like, how do you come up with the ideas for it?
The ideas they just come. Sometimes it'll be looking at a card, or a lot of times I'm being in the business of commercials and trailers and stuff. I tend to want to drive my family crazy, but when the TV's on, I always mute it. When it's commercials, it's just kind of, they're obnoxiously loud and stuff. But by doing that, I'm seeing, what's the word? It's almost making you mentally contribute to filling it in, like in a sort of a, you're not hearing any audio feedback. So especially if it's a newer commercial, you'll be wondering like, what could that be about? And then sometimes that'll just trigger an idea or whatnot. But a lot of times it's something I've worked on and I already have the footage, or it's something I've been a part of. And then, I just heavily can modify it and use a lot of my friends for voiceover artists and things like that. I've got a lot, but boy, I tell you, like we did when the Kentucky Derby here in the States, it's a famous horse race. Mm-hmm. They ran that, and I was like, God, these names are so ridiculous for these horses.
Right.
It'll be like, double backspace, space bar is like the name of a horse or something. And you're like, what a wordy, just call it, Steve or something. But anyway, so I was just thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be funny to do a horse race with all these Magic card names? Just like, I did the rock band's commercial for the Pauper County Fair. And, it was just like, this weekend only, that sort of, read and or whatnot. And I got about, 51 of them now going on. So there's a lot of them. But that was easily the hardest one to do, because I had to animate each card and each graphic. I have a amazing voiceover artist friend named Jason Guy Tibbetts, who's done a few of them. He did the Rakdos Casino, but he did the horse race, just knocked it out of the park. I mean, I was so blown away by how good he did that. I'm just got to keep signing in blood in here to hopefully I get some lands and you don't try. Jeez, that's 4 cards that I would have been not looking at lands. But anyway, having to animate that and then just put everything to it. We're talking probably like a week straight of editing.
Right on.
It was quite a few hours a day, and that sort of thing. So some come easy, some are really, really a grind, and a lot of the graphics take a lot of the work too.
Right on. So you're kind of like you're kind of in this choice, like not this choice. You're in the spot where like a lot of these like you have the TV and commercial background, but like are you're saying a lot of these commercials that you're turning into spoofs are ones like you actually worked on for like clients and stuff?
Yeah, there's been quite a bit of that, or like a lot of the footage. I'll use this and then close up of this one over there, flip the shot, color correct it so it kind of matches the look and whatnot. And there's all kinds of little tricks to the trade that you get the hang of as you go. But man, if your angler showed up, this would have been over a long time ago.
I know, that's what I've been waiting on.
I'll risk the Carnarium play here. I gotta throw caution into the wind, I guess. Hey, that'd be a good Magic card. I don't know if they've made it yet.
So like, how did you get into the TV commercial like background into that side of the business? Is that kind of what you're doing full time?
Yeah. I've worked for every major studio and whatnot. Probably my biggest claim to fame was a Lord of the Rings trailer. The first Fellowship of the Ring. I mean, there were hundreds of those trailers, and there were regional trailers and all this stuff. So, it's that was easily one of the coolest things. But when I was a little kid, camcorders were incredibly like rich people territory, and I had a few friends that way better off than our family was, and they we would make these little mini movies, and you'd have to just press pause and then set up the next shot and then just start recording again. Otherwise you would get that kind of vertical, that hash of static and stuff like that, because it knew something was up. And so if you press pause, you could have these really nice cuts, and then every once in a while, one of our silly movies, we would usually be trying to repeat some Saturday Night Live skit or some infomercial we saw late at night and just changing things around. So I was doing spoofs from probably 5th grade on with these cameras, and still have a lot of the footage, and just makes a lot of my older friends laugh, the same ones I got into Magic and such.
That's awesome.
And so I knew I wanted to do something like that, and so I went into I went into college and just majored in that, as far as like a what would you call just my focus was on that. And and I was pretty interested in a lot of the things to do with TV and stuff, but boy, once I found editing, I was with my wife, and I were dating at the time, and I called her and I was like, I found it, because I was getting into that point. I was late into my junior year, and I was getting to that point where I was just like, what the hell am I going to do? Nothing's really bit me yet. And it's like just putting a big puzzle together in all the best ways. And like any job, it's got its lame parts, when you start now for file management and things like that. But the creative side of it, I just I've had a lot of opportunities to, I think I got you.
Yeah, I think you got me too.
To do others, like to upgrade, to be like a director, a producer, which I've produced quite a few things, but I always edit them too. I'm kind of a little bit of a control freak that way, because I see, they always say directors, the best directors make let me change the deck here. Directors are always like editors first, and I totally see that, because you can see exactly where you want the thing to go, or what shot's got to be there and stuff. You don't just kind of like mince around, just tinker about and stuff. So it was quite the revelation. And back then, the only thing you could edit on was an Avid, and you had to know somebody, and just taking the classes was like thousands of dollars just to learn like 2 or 3 little effects and stuff. And
I had the wrong deck. Sorry. Not to interrupt you. I had the wrong one.
Oh man, I had a good hand too.
I'm sorry.
Not the way it always goes. But
all right, Q.
Yeah, I what was it? Avid was just so hard to come by. And so the guy I was interning with my senior year, he knew I really had a affinity for editing. And you couldn't, it was a catch-22. You couldn't get Avid experience without an Avid. You couldn't afford an Avid without Avid experience and all these things. And so he locked me into the KRBK studios in Sacramento, California on a Friday night. And there was a one-way out that wouldn't trigger an alarm, but if I tried to get back in, it would. And I just set up with a bunch of Mountain Dew and the manual, and I
there you
became,
go.
Yeah, I became who my Friday interview, I lied through my teeth saying I knew the system inside and out, and by Monday I did.
There you go. Hey,
yeah, and I was editing. I still remember it was the that horrible the Star Wars remakes, the Phantom Menace. I had the trailer for that, and that's all I did for like 40 hours was just edit every frame of that every which way, learn how to do everything, and yeah, it was it's just crazy times.
So is Avid still like the go-to? Is that still like the go-to?
Yeah, it's
editing?
funny. It's an interesting spot. Almost nobody under 30 knows Avid anymore, but it's where all the best jobs are because there's just so much infrastructure in Hollywood, and they just don't move very much, and they have something that works, and so they don't want to do anything else, and that's just how it is. And so yeah, a lot of times that these infrastructure tricks are just they're just set in their ways, so to speak. It's and so there's kind of a running joke in the industry where if you want a good job, it's going to be Avid, but it's also going to be kind of more on the industry side, like with movies or with big time shows and stuff like that. But I edit a Premiere Pro for Pauperganda, so I know both systems pretty inside and out. And they both have advantages. But if you have like assistants like I do and such with file management, you can editing on Avid's obviously superior when it's just editing. But Adobe, you can't beat it for the flexibility it can do and stuff. It's just amazing.
I have a editing background too, not professionally,
nice.
Just something I really love and have worked with ever since high school, like computer tech. And
right.
I started off on Final Cut through Mac and stuff. Then on 7, then Final Cut X came out, and it was okay. I kind of liked it, but I wasn't like blown away with it. And then when I built my PC, I moved to DaVinci Resolve.
Oh right, yeah.
And I love
I
Resolve.
haven't tinkered with I used that at Disney very briefly, and I was, just like any program, you look at it and it's a little intimidating. And it was they were finishing a music video I had worked on with it, and it just looked like, oh my God, this is like. But then when it was explained to me, it was like, oh, I get it now. But yeah, it's quite the interface there. So yeah, I'm sure you got plenty of good skills. Just having had that around.
Yeah,
that was I worked for Disney right before the pandemic for about a year, and my goodness, that was quite the learning experience. Every studio does things just completely, radically different and stuff. So, this will be over fast either way. Look at these.
Yeah, I know. That's what it's going to be. Wow. This deck I'm playing for a viewer of mine. Something I've been doing on my stream is I've been taking like viewer submitted decks, and then as like a community we've been kind of like tinkering with them, trying to like nail them in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And when I got queued with you the other day, viewer Raging Bull was like geeking out because he's a huge fan of yours, and this is his build, so I thought I would play it while we talk.
Oh nice. Yeah. Oh well, hello Raging Bull, was it?
Yep. Old Raging Bull.
Yeah. I love to do that too. Every once in a while somebody will say like Brute Squad. One of the decks I'm a bit known for, and everybody would be like, it wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a viewer. I think it was David Kane. He sent in, and it was maybe 40% of what Brute Squad is, but you could see the genesis there. It was like, wow, this is really something. And then I tweak, and Little Fight was always complimentary when it came to that, because he always thought that was my forte, was just deck construction and just improving things and making them more efficient and streamlined and stuff. And I like to think I can bring that to the table the majority of the time. But I was just poking fun of myself for leaving out Springleaf Drum in this build just yesterday on our little tab. And I was just like, boy, sometimes I can really be an idiot. It's like, this is a card that I like sing the praises of all the time. And I was just I had such tunnel vision for what I was trying to do. And yeah, I put it in this and it just started screaming, coming out a lot faster. So.
Okay.
All right. Double glazed fiend. This is getting scary. Yeah, tough choice. It's just that you want to be aggro, but you can't afford to be. But
right.
Yes.
So yeah,
Got to be a
rough
wee
spot.
bit careful. Let's do this. Boo. What do you got? A bunch of Chiscora or something? Let's see some. Those would fit beautifully. Might even want the scales in there to just keep those fiends alive through stuff. Let's see. I find this card. There we go. Hey, look at that. There it is. I find this card. I don't like to sit on it too much as far as obviously it's awesome when you can pitch 5 things, but
right.
Majority of the time, as you saw the other night, you just sometimes 2 or 3 is enough. You can get there.
I was like, I don't know if the math is. I'm not mathing in my head right now. I'm just gonna let this go.
Alrighty. Let's see what I'm gonna bring in here.
It's what I'm trying to figure out too.
That for that. Yeah, it's tough to play and have a conversation at the same time.
Yeah, I've noticed. A couple of them I've done. It's like, it's like, do I pay attention?
Pull up that audio.
Yeah. So because I feel like I could probably just keep talking to you about editing and stuff. But I think
don't want to ostracize the listeners.
Yeah, I think we move first. It's just cool because like that's something I would love to be able to do. I don't have the like school background.
I ended up it.
Yeah, I ended up dropping
you just
out
need a good reel
of college because I was offered a job doing graphics. So
that's
took
great.
That.
Yeah, I mean it's such an outdated mode out here and such a money grab college anymore. And plus half the stuff they're teaching is just like, you're going to get a major in what?
Yeah.
It's like, good luck finding a job and paying off the debt, I've actually told my wife our oldest just graduated and he's off to the military and our youngest is about to go in college. And I'm just kind of that mind where I'm like, man, just get a trade. It's like, with all the stuff online and everything, it's like everything I've learned or need to know. It's a YouTube video away.
Right. There's a lot you can just learn, especially like in the terms of like editing and stuff. There's a lot you can learn just online.
Any sort of specialty.
But it's cool to like see you had that because like your show that you're presenting, at least in my opinion, is pretty different than I think a lot of Magic creators in the sense of like you have, because of those commercials and probably your background stuff, you kind of have this. Instead of, this is just a live stream, we're hanging out or something like that, there's like kind of more of a presentation there that kind of makes it feel like more of a live show in a more traditionalist sense in a way.
Yep. That's what I'm going for. Just kind of a Saturday morning for pauper geeks,
Yeah.
Just like you're from the commercials to the breaks to just everything. I always want to be that fly on the wall of somebody that has no idea what my show's about, and then they watch it for the first time, and I hope they come across from it just going like, "Holy crap!" This guy did all that, and it's just the culmination of a lot of time and a lot of passion. Because, as you could tell, I love editing, but I love Magic even more. And you put them together, and you get Pauperganda.
Right, and you have too. You're talking about. You say you have some help that kind of goes into like the content creation and stuff.
No, I really, other than my few friends here and there, if because it can't just be my voice all the time. With voiceovers mostly, but yeah, as far as like any sort of graphics, no, it's all me. All the graphics, all the like I have a musician friend that did this theme for Pauperganda, and I sent him just a little. What was it? Just a tiny little audio file on my phone of just like humming the song out, and my directions were I just want this to just be the most ridiculously catchy earworm ever, like just because you have I was conscious of the language barrier immediately, and so I didn't want to speaking of ostracized people, I just wanted it to be very clear and understanding, like somebody with just rudimentary English could be like, oh yeah, I get that, or it's not a, super heavy lyrics or anything like that. So, yeah, it's just come. But like my co-host Shirazman, he was a fan from our very first stream when we were just trying to like figure out how we were going to do it. It's been a kind of a slower evolution, and yeah, he let me hold on a minute here before I outthink myself. He was there from the very beginning, and so after a while, I was just like, hey man, you got to be part of the show, because it just felt wrong to not have him be part of the show, because he was just contributing just as a moderator, and I was kind of new to that environment. And then Little Fight was always there, and just kind of keeping people in check, because I try to keep it kid friendly. I mean, I swear maybe twice a year on the stream. So it's very genuine when it happens, but I just picture, there's a few people like one of our viewers named Chimsky, who became a moderator, who watched it with his son. And I just pictured that kind of, bonding over a game. And then, this show kind of brings people together and stuff, and just love the community aspect of it. And just thinking like, worldwide that, it's like, wow, somebody, we have a lot of fans in Brazil and Italy, especially. And it just blows my mind, having never been to those countries, that
right.
Somebody there, if I was, I don't know, walking around down there, somebody might be like, Deluxe. I'd just be like, that would just be the biggest shock. Just like, what is happening? It's like, it'd just be crazy. But one of these days I got to get out to there, especially that Pauperganda tournament, show my face there one of these days. But man, this hand, I am flooded like crazy. All right, let's see if you got any goods. Let's see what's going on here. Do you got the scale?
Nope.
I would have thought you would have popped it just for the benefit. All right. I thought right. Let's do this to this. These clue tokens have really been helping this list out when I get that fundamental extra little mana pump,
Mm-hmm.
With
so,
the rights.
To go back just a little bit about your intro, do you know who Dr. Steele is? Have you ever heard of Dr. Steele? Okay, he's a musician, and I don't think he's around anymore. I think he's, I don't know if retired is the right word, but I don't think he's around anymore. But that intro song reminds me so much of his music. So if you ever get a chance to look it up, like it reminds me kind of a lot. His is a little bit more, I think, on the heavier side, but in particular, it kind of reminds me of, I can't remember the name of the album, but he's got a song, it's like, are you having fun yet? Okay. And that's what kind of that vibe. I kind of get that same vibe from it.
Interesting. But, yeah, I can't take too much credit other than the beat and the lyrics. My friend Aaron Moho, who's a lead singer of the band Less Friction, gorgeous stuff. He put that all together for me, and my what do you call guidance was just like I was like, I wanted to was Comedy Bang Bang, the IFC show with Scott Aukerman, who we use a lot of their skits as just bathroom breaks, because one of the things I don't like is, as a very rare viewer of streams, is that when somebody takes a break or goes to the bathroom, you're just looking at an empty chair and or bad music that maybe might not be your style. And that's again, like for the people that don't know what Pauperganda is, when I need to get a coffee refill or whatever, I don't just leave or come back. We roll to like either a commercial or a funny thing that has to do about magic. There's, an Antiques Roadshow where this guy sells his magic set. And, over the years, you just collect all these things. And God, I've got like something like, I don't know, 600 gigs of just the goods. And so, yeah, I got to keep up on backing that kind of stuff up, because PCs aren't going to last forever. But, oh man, I'm dead in the water here.
I guess to reiterate on that whole editing thing, how do you feel about like AI editors and stuff? Is there any kind of like worry there, or is it just like, oh we're good?
There's a lot of worry in the business. In fact, the lot that I work on now, the Ratford lot in Hollywood, there, I have to cross the picket line every day, or every day that I'm in office. So we do quite a bit of remote work too. So one good thing that came out of the pandemic, but it's shocking how good and how bad AI is at some stuff. The writing, it tends to be pretty good, especially the obvious Chat GTP one. But I have a friend back at Disney who he's already got this program that pretty much acts like an assistant editor and gets him like 90% of the way there.
Wow.
And it's pretty scary that way when it comes to just the potential of everything like that. So yeah, I haven't had too much experience with it. I wanted to do an AI deck for the show, and it just can't do it yet. I will ask it, make. What's that?
I said it can't figure it out.
Yeah, it's I'll go out on a limb and say it's a little too creative for it. It will it'll get it like 80% right. I'll be like, make me a blue-green aggro list with lots of evasion, and it's like, instant later, here's a list, and then there's like 14 cards that are uncommon or rare, and then I'll write to the thing. I'll be like, hey, that's a rare. Oh yes, you're right. I'm sorry. Here's an update, and then it'll, and if you do that enough times, it starts like turning in on itself. I just did this like 2 weeks back, and then it started saying like there was a deck it gave me with like 14 islands, and the rest of them were treasure cruise. And I'm like, how did you arrive at that? I was like, after about the 5th or 6th critique of like, nope, that's a rare or whatever. And every once in a while it fools me. I'm like, whoa, that's a great card, because it'll show like the back when they were all just black mana symbols. And then I go, why have I never heard of that? There's a reason.
You're making the poor AI doubt itself. You're making it take its own existence.
I've taken screen grabs and made a few of our fans laugh because I'll post it up, and we used to have quite a Facebook presence, but Facebook got to where they just made everything I liked it because you could just share a deck list and all these paragraphs and paragraphs as opposed to Twitter on why you thought this way or that way, but the interface has gotten overthought to the degree where now it's like, if somebody messages me there, I don't hear about it for months because they decided to do this thing where it's a whole thing. So YouTube is just the main hub now, that and Twitch. Twitch is for live, YouTube's everything else. But there's a neat little thing on our page, youtube.com/Pauperganda. And if you go to there's videos, obviously, that's what we're known for. But if you go to the community, about once a day or so, I'll not that, about three, 4 times a week, I'll post something relevant. And one of them was this little back and forth, just arguing with the chat GTP about, it was so petty, I sounded like just an idiot doing it, but it was kind of fun for that reason. I feel like I'm walking right into a counterspell here. Oh, let's see. Maybe I can do it this way. Boy, that's a gamble. I probably shouldn't have done that. I forgot I could block with Ornithopter. Alrighty, let's see. Where are my outs? Grew up in a lot of casinos. My dad was a professional gambler before it was cool, and
so before you could stream it on Twitch.
What was that?
I said before you could stream it on Twitch.
Right, yeah. Or it was all over TV, like in the early to mid 2000s. That was like became a cool thing all of a sudden. But all right, I'll play this. I can't block, so I might as well attack. I thought of putting in Keep Watch in this list, but it's like, that's just getting greedy.
What's Keep Watch do?
It's 2 and a blue instant, draw a card for each attacking creature. Little mana hungry for this list. Try to keep my draw spells to 1 mana, but obviously in a scenario like this, it'd be very nice to have. That's a nice little thing with the... all right, am I going to live? Probably not. That's 6. That's 9. Or is it 2 or?
It's 2 because of the blood token.
I got no tricks up my sleeve. No curfews here. Dang it. Crunch. Man, that got big fast.
Yeah.
Well, good news is cool. If I had my Ornithopter back, it still wouldn't have mattered. Those are the kind of mistakes I like to make.
Right. The ones that didn't matter in the long run anyway.
Yeah. All right. Game 3. Here we go.
So I'd be a little remiss if I didn't talk to you a little bit about your brewing and how you brew and stuff, because you're kind of known for the kind of like I don't feel like you play like a ton of like the main decks. You're normally playing and testing a lot of stuff. So how do you go about like what's your brewing process? Like how much of it is like an original idea versus like how much are you like shelling off of another list you may have seen?
Well, yeah, that's definitely all of them kind of come through that way. Like I think Boros Boli was probably my most successful, and everybody kind of laughs because then that became, for the longest time, it still is, in the meta game, but there was like 3, maybe even 4 years there where it was just always in the top of the challenges, or, one of the main decks to be aiming at. And so that was probably my proudest one. But because of that, then I didn't want to play it anymore because, I'd become the problem. And so when I first started off, Delver was I had a target on Delver. No matter what I brewed, it had to beat Delver. Obviously that doesn't always happen, but it had to have a pretty good odd against it. Mm-hmm. It turns out that was a pretty good strategy for, from about 2005 till pretty recently. Now, obviously, things have shifted more towards the red persuasion, but a lot of people forget. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but it's just historically, I was one of the creators of Stompy. It was a Clog, me, and G. Weiss. I still have a screen grab somewhere of somebody saying, you can't play mono green, it's just, and that's all I need to hear. I'm kind of defiant that way, where it's like, oh yeah, watch this, and then, then after that, I had this build called Deluxe Red, which ran Empty the Warrens, Lava Darts, before, way before people had any knowledge of kind of Lava Darts, which served double duty, because back when you had Empty the Warrens tokens, and I had Kiln Fiend in there, which was the only other kill card, and obviously Bushwhackers, but they would Echoing Truths were everywhere because Empty the Warrens was everywhere. But if you had a Lava Dart in the yard and the Echoing Truth or Decay, you just target the one with one, mountain, add to your storm count, and you save like 19 other dudes. And won a lot with that one. Actually won a legacy event online with it. It was only 3 rounds. Made a lot of friends with that move. And then but yeah, Boros Bully was there were similar ideas that were just sloppy, and I really spent a weekend fine-tune, and I took it to the first challenge, and I got to almost to the finals. I was in I had damage. I had lethal on the stack, and my time ran out.
Ooh.
And it was I was so mad because because Delver was, I think, the one that won it that and so I would have won that challenge, and I was like, no. But that I got crestfallen on. So yeah, Stompy was more of a community thing where 3 people, including myself, were kind of onto it, and we were kind of sharing ideas just in the chat. Bully was solo. Boros in general was kind of had that same flavor as Stompy, where it just, nobody could figure it out. They always wanted to do landfall back in the day, and then this player by the name of Boros Kitty 3000 made the first build with like Glint Hawks and the bounce things, and then I'm not that one. I was just kind of acting as second fiddle and just like, hey, try this, and fine tuning it and such. But a lot of people forget that the very first challenge was won by Rallygond, which almost nobody remembers anymore, by Methonical, who was running my list, and that's like a Boros Bully on steroids with the Gond engine, with being able to make infinite tokens, and it won the first challenge and like the third, and I think like the 7th or 8th one. It was quite a terror, and then Tron kind of put it out of its misery. But I don't know, sometimes there'll be a card, to get back to your question. I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
No, you're good.
There'll be a card, and I'll just see it, and it just sparks like imagine like, your linear thinking's like a hallway, and then all of a sudden there'll be like 5 doors off to the side, and it's kind of a splinter effect, and you just go, what about this? What about this? And you get a little libation of your choosing late at night, and you start poring over stuff. Or like one of my favorite words to search for in Magic Online is rather than. I've had a lot of fun with that over the years. And yeah, it's just been, I'll keep this. I guess each thing comes from different directions. Like like Brute Squad, I admitted that David Kane hadn't sent that list in. I might have eventually come around to it, but I don't know. If I would have, it sure fast forwarded the process, and so I like to obviously give credit where it's due when it does happen. And I still remember the Tireless Tribe combo. There was about a year or two when that came out, and a lot of people have a lot of different builds of that. I don't think anybody could really claim Tribe, but there was I got to think carefully here. This is an interesting hand. Hold on just a minute here. But nobody wanted to play for Gush. They thought it was too much. Same thing, got kind of laughed at when I would suggest that. And I was just, that's silly. Way too much. I was just like, no, it's not. This is good times. And then, as the numbers came in, it started rolling out. One of my favorite things to do with a list, when just like what I was talking about with that gushing question, is, when you go to the deck editor, you just right click and go to properties, and you can do sample hands. And I used to tell Little Fight, my friend, when he was brewing, I'm like, just do like 50 sample hands and have a little hash marks next to you and write down, like, do I like seeing these cards? Do I like, is this, and they're so often they'll just be a card that you notice, I don't like seeing it. And it's like, well, then what's it doing in the deck? Right. A lot of times it'll be like, well, that's supposed to be in there. And it's like, if you start asking those bigger questions, you can kind of expand your, and you're going to miss a lot. I mean, I miss a lot live. Mm-hmm. I think I'm going to try something pretty chancy here. Yeah. Let me do this. Then I'll go like this. I'm going to go like this. This will look very reckless, and it is. This. I'll do this to here, to here, to here. And that's all I got.
It's a pretty interesting opener, though.
But pretty reckless. We'll see. Uh-oh. The Justicar. Lifelink. I don't like that.
So, like, when you're brewing up these decks and stuff, how do you, like, find your cards to pick? I mean, obviously you've been playing for a while and stuff, so it's like some of it just, like, by playing so many cards, you just remember them? Or is it, like, how do you, like, hunt and peck for those certain cards?
Yeah, it's a lot of searching, and unfortunately, a lot of times you come back to this, the same well, because good cards are good cards for a reason.
Right.
Like Orum's Cure is one that in Wide Infect is just amazing, but you have to have a lot of planes for it. Every time I play it, there's this digital pause. You can tell they're like, what? Whoa, what is this? But 90% of other decks, it's just better to play Prismatic Strands there. But no, I'd be lying if I say I almost do have I wouldn't say photographic memory, but it's bordering on close when it comes to Pauper, because I've just put so much time into the game. And I have a strange visual memory for the things, and sometimes on the show I'll poke fun at myself for just kind of being a loser. It's like, why would I remember this card? I played with it 9 years ago, and I tell you the stats and the color and why it would be a good fit here or there. And yeah, it's just
that could
weirdness.
Be a little bit of your like video editing background coming in, like remembering like sequences and stuff, certain like pieces to recall. I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe I'm stretching there, but
maybe a bit, but yeah, I'm I don't know, open all of it. It's just it's tough when you ask a creative person. I mean, I think everybody is in their own way, but I definitely kind of like amongst my friends or my family and stuff, I'm always like, the one they always say like, oh, he's the creative one and blah 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 and stuff. But I don't know. It's just like if somebody's really good at working on cars, they just are. Mm-hmm. And there's a varying degrees of that with any talent, but yeah, it's just it's just such a perfect storm with me liking production, editing, and then Pauper, and then it just kind of culminates in the show. And I don't know, it's just a lot of fun. It's a hoot. Hopefully it comes across.
Yeah, for sure. You're someone who I think has a good amount of like energy. That it's not like you have a nice like even pace. Like when you're watching your videos, I don't get to normally catch a lot of the streams because you mainly just do Saturday streams, right?
Yeah, we've changed over the years here and there, but for good, I don't know, 3 years straight now, it's been Saturdays. So I used to have Fridays off, and so I had them on Fridays when we first started. But
right on.
Yeah.
I'm always gone on the weekends. So, but
right.
I catch stuff on YouTube because you see a thumbnail, you're like, what is this list? All right, click. And you have like a good pace and flow with your voice and interacting with the audience and stuff. That I think really helps like hold in people's attention. But I do want to know, because you've been doing the Pauper stuff for a little while now. What was it like starting off, and like how one was like, how long did it take to kind of pick up the traction for it? And then two, because you're kind of like one of the it guys for Pauper. And then for two is like, maybe on that starting off, like you have the high production, you have everything going like that. But was you like kind of getting numbers out of the gate, or was it kind of like a little bit of a slow roll? And if it was a bit of a slow roll, how did you deal with that? Because I'd imagine there's probably like some self-doubt with that slow roll too, right?
Oh yeah. It was, to say slow roll is a compliment. It was a molasses rollout. And with as much passion as I'm putting out and doing this, I won't lie to you. I that first month or two, I'm just like, what am I doing wrong here? It's like I'm just, these things are so over the top. Everybody's super complimentary, just like, pretty much the same reaction every time to any of the custom stuff. Like, oh God, that's a backbreaker. Nice play. They're just like, pretty much saying holy crap all the time. And we just, every single and sub that we have was hard fought. And I don't think I could have done it if I was just in it for that, to answer your question. Again, it goes back to, I like doing both of these things. They're very high on my list, and I will do them in my free time. And so I could really, obviously, I would love for it to have caught on faster. But there was no way I was stopping, because, it's kind of doing it for me, or, as almost a creative release or whatnot. And there was just enough traction to kind of keep things going. And plus, a lot of streamers, there's like seasons of streamers that I remember, and they usually last about 6 or 7 months, and then they either disappear for a year or altogether permanently. Mm-hmm. And it's because of burnout. They're streaming once or twice a day, a couple times a week, maybe almost every day a week. And it can get to you. And, back to your point about, having a good cadence or speed. I did a little bit of a radio on college too, where, you got to keep people interested in stuff, and you don't want to, like I said, I could spin a pretty good tale with the rest of them, as far as just trying to, keep anything from dead air happening on the mic. That's the last thing you want when you're searching for the next thing to say, is somebody to just sit there and just be dead quiet. It's just like, that's just radio death in the biz and stuff. But so yeah, all those things kind of come together, and that was, I forgot the first question though. I know that was the second one.
Yeah, like kind of like, how do you deal, like when you were starting off that slow roll and stuff, and some of that self-doubt, how did you deal with some of that? Like, what was kind of some of the thought process of like that self-doubt, and how did you, I guess, overcome it? Like, how did you think about that?
Well, I'm surprised it did, because the original episodes were so hard to do, and it was lost on everybody. And I understand now. I was trying for something just completely out there, and nobody really got it. As far as like being kind of like this, space soap opera sort of thing, and it was us against, Worm, which was Wizards United Rarity Management, and they were after us for making these avant-garde rogue lists, and so we were flying around through the different planes of Magic and blah blah blah. But with a shoestring budget, there was nothing there. And so the other thing that got me a little down was like, man, at some point I gotta pull the trigger here. Let me see. I'll stop you. See if you can trade here. So yeah, I would definitely get a little despondent about that. And then on top of that, even to this day, about, I don't know, every 7 months, I'll get some comment where it's like, why don't you just stream like everyone else? And it's like, because that's what everybody else does, and that the only reason I've got this kind of staying power with fans, I would hope, is that I'm bringing something different to the table. And like you said, it's like more of like a production, a TV show, or just sit down, grab some popcorn, and as long as you like the deck list involved, it's going to be a good time.
So what's something like, if somebody wanted to get into, it doesn't have to be, I guess, Magic content, but if someone is wanting to get into streaming or content creation, or even outside of like the YouTube, Twitch and stuff, maybe they want to get into just some kind of creative outlet, video, stuff like that. What's a piece of like life advice or something that you would have to give? Because I'm sure you probably have, a little bit of a well now at this point of knowledge, right?
Yeah, I don't know, I've kind of brushed on it a little bit, but it's got to be that thing that it can't be the shiny new thing and that everybody's talking about unless that's your thing. Um, I'm just so mono focused on my love for Pauper and stuff. And sometimes it would drive my friend Little Fight crazy. It was just like, dude, there's other games out there, and I'm just like, yeah. And you show me it, and then I want to play more Pauper. It's like, yeah, that's a nice game, and now let's go play some more Pauper. So, oh my God, I'm gonna be at One Life. Pretty sure you got this one. So I would say that the passion's just got to be there. It's got to be that thing. I don't know. Maybe you're really into jump roping, whatever,
Right.
and maybe there's some sports channel, and you've got all these different if as long as you're passionate about it, you're going to do those things for you because you need that, release. It's like a lot of times, like I play a lot of, guitar and done a few albums and such. Nothing, I mean, you'd have to look in the attics of the internet to find any of it. But a lot of times, like, a tune won't leave you alone. You hear where a song wants to go, and one of the funnest parts is finding
Right.
the notes. And the same with Pauper. Like, there'll be a thing where I'm like, oh, I know it can do this. I just have to go find that card. And sometimes I do, and then sometimes it just doesn't exist. And I put it on a shelf, and 10 sets later, it's there. And then I've got, I look like a genius because everybody's like, "Well, how'd you come up with that?" And it's like, no. This has been in the
Tank for a while.
coals of the fire for 7 years. It's like I've had this. I've got these little files all over. All right, I'm scooping this one to you, buddy.
All right.
I've got a Mur Enforcer, 2 rights, and a bridge.
That was for you, Raging Bull.
There you go.
Um,
All right, Raging Bolt. All right, let me
So,
change decks here.
I imagine
dude.
you're probably the same then with kind of that creative brain where I don't know about you, but it's like every waking moment, it's something to think about,
Won't
like
leave you alone.
creative.
Yeah,
And it's
you can't
like
turn it off.
Yeah, it's like you keep like diving into that, like, oh, well, I could do this or I could do that, or
Right.
and it's like
Yeah, it's a lot of people think, that don't consider themselves a creative person. They think like, oh, that's got to be great. It's like it's
kind of a
it's like,
nightmare
imagine-
sometimes, right?
yeah, it's like imagine a song you don't like that won't ever stop playing.
It's just you
And-
always have "We Didn't Start the Fire" just on repeat.
Yeah, yeah, and now with guitar and music, once I flush it out and get it, then it goes away. But boy, not before that.
Do you have a good hand? Because I hate to do this because I had the wrong deck again.
Oh, go for it. I'm
Okay.
just mediocre here, so
Okay, cool.
I'm fine with that. Yeah, it's whenever you switch a lot of decks, that's one thing. It doesn't really prompt you like, hey, remember you just played this one.
Well,
So-
that's what. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that-
I've been going. I always forget like you need to change decks on the actual constructed place,
Right.
and
yeah.
so I'm like
yeah.
over on the collection side, and I click the deck. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm going to play, and so then I hop into the queue, and I'm like, oh, duh, you gotta actually click the deck over here too.
Figured I'd play another little fan favorite here. This is another thing I was told that couldn't be done about it was about 10 years ago now, but one of my favorite lists. Yes, I want to play First Now. Unlike the other list. That's all right. We'll keep this.
Yeah, I think I'll keep my hand too. Not like in love with it, but we'll try it. So you say you play music and stuff. What all do you play, and like how long you been playing? I play guitar. I've played since I was 9 and got into bass about
Yeah.
5 years ago. So
I had a pretty big theater love background for a while. And then I got into a high school band, and I didn't know any instruments, so I sang, and I sang horribly. And then when I took vocal lessons, those helped quite a bit. But then when I held an acoustic guitar, it would literally rattle your teeth if you hit the wrong note. And so I could sing like really good pitch when I was playing acoustic. And at that time, I think Dave Matthews Band was like all the rage, and I really liked their sound a lot. And so I was all about that band, and just I think the first song I ever taught myself with tablature was Satellite, which is just incredibly hard. And I should not have done that. I'm probably going to have arthritis 5 years sooner than I would have, because the technique was all over the place and stuff like that. But no, that's how I got kind of into guitar. And then I used to pay rent with like a lot of like coffee shop little tours and stuff, because I put out an album or two. And
what are the albums under?
Oh, just actually my middle name. When I worked in radio, it was for old time radio, like K Earth 101, I think it was. and it was an oldies but goodies channel, and who wants to work for that? But hey, it paid the bills. And the station manager at the time, his name was Ken Cashin, and he's just one of these larger than life Hollywood types, even though we were in Sacramento. And he said, he's like, Adrian Gray is your middle name, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, you ever read The Portrait of Dorian Gray? And Oscar, I was like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, that's what. So we're gonna call you. I think it was either Dorian Gray or Adrian Gray, because he thought like all the old ladies would be like more receptive to that or so. Just this weird logic of that, whatever you want to call it, that industry. And I would just go around and be on the corner of such and such. And so because of that, I used my middle name when I did music. So they're under the just Adrian Gray, Grey. And I just had a lot of fun doing that, and still do play doodle a lot on my guitar. But I tell you, just like the beginning of Pauperganda, there I would go to a coffee shop show sometimes and play your heart out for like 4 people. Now, there were plenty of times, the place was packed and it felt really cool, and I was like, oh, I'm on to something here. But there was just as many where you're just like like less than 10 people, and half of them give you a look like, hey, chill, I'm trying to eat here, or I'm trying to talk to so and so, and it's just like, oh no. So pretty soul sucking that one. And then obviously the guy that did the Pauperganda theme song, he's an amazing vocalist, and and then my nephew, who's an amazing guitarist, and I saw what was possible with the extremes of the two, and it's like, I'll keep this to a hobby. It's like, I know where I am in this line, It's like, I can tell a pretty nice little storytelling song and such, but that's about, decent at just here and there. Just like I said, I'm more of like the tinkering mage instead of the trinket mage.
Right.
But it is a very nice, release of like, what's the word? Can't quite try to think what the word I'm looking for, but it's just another one of those nice little creative releases. But again, it also entraps you, because then the second you do it, then you want to
keep doing it.
And you can't stop hearing like little tunes and stuff like that going off. So gotta put those to bed. But yeah, so this White Infect, we've played maybe over the years, maybe 3 or 4 times on the stream, and it gets a lot of love, and it gets there not out of the kaboom of like a invigorate or groundswell, but out of just the protection factor, which hasn't really shown up here, but whether it be Benevolent Blessing or the Bodyguards or bringing stuff back with Recommission. But the big trick is Solid Footing and Priests of Norn, because that's just 5 Infect out of the blue, and it's very hard to kill that thing. Oh, Tron's fighting you. All the power plants and nothing else.
Well, I'm trying to dig for something here.
There's part of it. Yeah, we had a running little thing. This was a Sid Rankin's list.
Yep.
Or the one he ran. Yeah, I watched that a little bit earlier.
It's super fun. I don't know how good it is, but it's super fun. It's a lot of fun.
It looks it. I was tripping out over it. Let me do.
So the other, can we talk a little bit about who the other people in the intro are sometimes when they pop up?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Like I said, Shirazamon's been there. He was our first fan, our first viewer, and, it just stuck with us ever since. And then, Nimchimsky, just recently, we made him part of the show, and, he's just longtime viewer, and his son's a big fan too and stuff. So yeah, we've it's just over the course of the years, that's about all we've had. Little Fight was, it used to just be my mug and his, and then all the other stuff around. But nowadays it's right. Currently it's me, and then it shows Shirazamon's face, and then it shows Nimchimsky, and those are their username online too. And yeah, just cool guys. Like I said, try to keep it a family show. And so, somebody wants to post a link, they throw them to that, because, I'm too busy gabbering at the mouth like I'm doing here, for 2-3 hours at a time, and trying to roll the commercials and time my bathroom breaks and get back in time before the screen goes black, that sort of thing. And so it's nice to have those two guys there, and hell of a players too.
You got this one.
To have. Oh, all right. And Chimsky has, a super Golgari mid-range sort of almost all of his decks. I lovingly tell him, I'm like, please do not challenge me anymore in these shows because I do not need one round taking an hour and 10 minutes,
Right.
just driving me nuts. But yeah, he can get crazy. So yeah, this list I'm running actually does have Orum's Cure main because it reads, if you control a plane, you can tap an untapped creature you control. Here's that word again, rather than pay its spell's mana cost, and it prevents the next 4 damage that would be dealt to any target. So a free spell as long as you got a plane out. And obviously most people tend to try to blow up or kill things with infect.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, Journey might be good against you. Thinking out loud, or am I? Is it a trap?
That's what,
a red herring.
Because this is a 5-card combo deck, or 6-card, I guess, technically.
Yeah.
It's like so hard to sideboard for.
Right. Yeah, there's a phrase we use called overboarding where sometimes you can just have so much hate that it actually ruins your strategy because you just don't have any focus anymore.
I learned that the hard way starting off in Modern with Dredge. I learned about that pretty quickly where it was like, yeah, you don't need to bring in this much stuff.
Right. Yeah, it can get pretty crazy.
So,
all right, we'll keep this one.
You've been playing Magic for safely a pretty long time.
Almost since the beginning. Yeah, 1994.
The year I was born. So you've been playing it my entire life. So
I have a bald head for a reason.
So what about Magic has just kind of held you in here for all this long? And then
good question.
How did you fall in love with Pauper? And was you kind of on the forefront of the Pauper frontier when it was coming around?
Well, Magic in general, when I tell people what I do, I say it's like D&D and poker and chess all mixed up together. And I used to play really competitive chess tournaments. I went to the U.S. Open twice. And just like Pauper, I play a very avant-garde style to where I could beat, like if I was up against a master, I would beat them, but then I would lose to a nobody the very next round. I've never have been very book smart, but my father was always like, take them out to uncharted waters and sink them. And so it was always like opening up with crazy unorthodox styles.
I like that.
Yeah. And then forcing them to get out of the book and it puts you at a big disadvantage. But I got so tired of chess. Magic is like chess if it debuted a new piece like twice a year, and you could choose to put it anywhere on the board. And that's that. If somebody knows how to play chess, I explain Magic that way. Just imagine how the endless abilities and cycles and stuff. And from the art to the flavor text is one of my very favorite things in the game. It's just so little to not love. I just love it. And like I said, I got out of playing a lot of chess because it just turned into a game of memorization, or Simon Says, out, with the little kids game where, can you remember what, Alexander Alkine did against the, Capablanca defense or versus Morphy in this game, and you got to retain this to memory, and it's just like, talk about not fun, right? I mean, that's just this crazy memorization. So, and I've always been that way. My brothers tease me that everything I eat, they call it my prison diet because I can have the same food every day. I don't mind new things. I just don't have that wanderlust. Same with traveling. I'm happy where I'm at. I don't really have that seek mentality. I'm fine doing stuff, but I don't have to. It's a strange combination, I guess. But oh boy, I'm gonna be really marooned here if this doesn't pan out. But and then. What was the question about Pauper specifically? Yeah,
so did you kind of get into the forefront of Pauper when it was coming out? What about Pauper drew you in and has held you here?
Oh, just being a cheap ass. I always spelled standard with the money symbol for the S.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I would always, I was trying to get tournaments going or get competitive, and there'd be a block or two where I'd be right there, and then right when I started figuring everything out, it would rotate, and then these things that cost me $20 each are now $1, and then I found this format, and it was really competitive, and it was super fun, and it was so vast because coming from a standard, it was like, are you kidding me? I can go back from the beginning. It's like, hello, it's time to start committing a whole lot more cards to memory, and just just it was all downhill from there. And plus, it's been different over the years. You used to have these little dailies that were only 3 rounds, or you'd have it's varied over the years all the time. But the payout's always been really impressive to me, especially if you go on a good 4-1 run or 5-0, and you can really get on sort of a gravy train. So what I did was I just had I was a lot more competitive then. Tron wasn't too big of a problem, and I became a super grinder. I'd played maybe 2 leagues a day, and not to boast, but usually at least I'd always finish like in profit. And before I knew it, I just had more tickets and stuff that I knew what to do with. And this is for the $10 buy-in of a Magic Online account, and all that trading I did when I worked at CBS. And so then I went and parlayed all those and started getting used to not opening the product, which I learned very quickly, but selling it to people or bots or whatnot. And at one point there was I would actually just cash out because I was just getting so I just had too mmany tickets. And so I'd sell them at a 10% loss and just get a check in the mail and take the family out to a dinner or whatever. And it felt kind of funny doing that with Pauper winnings,
Yeah.
It was good times. But let me try this. I'm going to try to cut off your colors here.
No.
Yeah, so it was just super, super profitable that way. And because of that, I would start investing in modern, and so like I have quite a few modern decks completely built off of Pauper winnings. I haven't purchased a single thing. And other than that, that $10 purchase, there's been a few times like, I'll buy some tickets for one of my sons when I'm my oldest, has an account, but he hasn't touched it in years. But then, my youngest, Aaron, Sapphire Online, he's a hell of a player. He makes me look like dirt. He's just crazy. My wife and I always roll our eyes and just say we're raising Spock, like the Star Trek character. He's just so analytical and precise and just like a machine. And I'm quite the opposite. So it makes for some fun kitchen table games, that's for sure.
But I'm sure there's like a real sense of like pride in that though, right? Like having your son kind of just whoop you.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, it's not a father ego thing. I mean, I'm sure there's some of that there, but he just missed the first place at the RCQ for modern, the last one they had. I think he got 3rd, and he didn't even know it was for a trip to Houston and all the marbles and everything. And so now that he knows that, he's dialed in even more. But no, he's definitely better than I am in just about every respect. And it's so cool how fast he came along. And I will talk over breakfast or something. And I'm like, what about this? And he's, like in that deck 0 that it's always been one of our most famous ones where you just literally don't need any lands to play that list. And he was the one that argued for Preordain being in there because, there's a lot of dead draws that can happen with that list. And, you've got to have something to keep you from the dead draws are what get you that explosive start, but you also have to stay away from a mid to late. And that was just the best card out there. And after I put it in there, sometimes you put in a card and it just feels perfect. And you're just like I was saying earlier, instead of looking at it going, oh, I don't like seeing this, every time you see it, you're like, oh, good. Those are what you want to keep drawing all the time. And it's very obvious, but a lot of times people, they'll do that. And they'll just because you're supposed to put X, Y, and Z in this style of list. And it's like, you got to ask those questions. And if you don't like what you see, man, change it and keep moving. You might start the next big thing, like this cow list that you're playing.
I'd love for this to be the next big thing. This deck's fun.
Oh yeah, it's killer.
So like,
yeah, and Sid Rankin, I mean, that guy's a hell of a player. He's like turning into the grinder that I used to be, like just all the time, just doom 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 doom. Like I'll jump into a league like every maybe 4 or 5 months tops, just when I'm curious about maybe feeling the urge or whatever, and I usually bump into him. It's like, dude, are you just always playing?
I actually found him. I didn't even know he was making content. I found him because Cooper used to stream in the mornings when I would be like just kind of like hanging out because I work nights, so like kind of hanging out, and so I'd watch Cooper, and then he would just run into Satan Rakin all the time.
Right.
So I always knew of Satan Rakin by name because you see that name pop up so much, and then just like one day I found out, oh, he has YouTube. I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's funny. Cooper the Red. I didn't know he I think he was a fan of our show first, and then he started streaming. And so much so that horse race edit that I told you about a couple years back, when I did that, it was easily the hardest thing I've ever edited for that show. He came up with the phrase, because one of the horses fake horses was called Dead Weight after the card. And he just made everybody in the chat laugh because he wrote Dead Weight is dead last. and so the announcing at the very end of, when the race is over, that happens. It's kind of a reverse spoiler, that he doesn't win, right?
Yeah.
But so we actually mention him by name when the race starts. We're like, infamous jockey Cooper the Red on horse 11, and then he's like walking up, and the graphic says it all and stuff like that. So I try to, like, when somebody contributes in a positive way and it's undeniable, I love giving shout outs like that, and giving people their little pats on the back or credit or whatnot, because heck, that's sometimes somebody will come up with an idea for a commercial or whatever, and then it starts me thinking. And the most frustrating one I did was when Arkham's Astrolabe came out. It was such a big card, and everybody played 4 of it, and I'm sure you remember. And so I spent a good 2 or 3 weeks getting all this footage together and making the most ridiculous idea for a storefront. It was Arkham's Astrolabe warehouse. All they sold was Astrolabes, and it was just the most ridiculous premise. And I liked that spoof commercial so much, but then they went and banned the thing, and now it's been gone long enough that I'm afraid new players are like, wait, I don't get it.
What's this?
Yeah, so run into that problem a little bit. So boy, I sure wish these cats were artifacts.
Don't dust to dust my energy refractor.
I'm gonna do them both.
No. So with you kind of making these spoofs and stuff of commercials, and YouTube's kind of lackluster copyright issues, have you ever had any issues with like copyright or anything?
No, the genius part, not that I set off knowing this was going to be the case, but the best part of ripping off existing commercials and then repurposing them is that they fall under this completely different algorithm because they always want to roll the spam commercials, and they always want to, so they never come up. Music, yes, I have a couple music libraries that I buy music from, and so I don't get like residuals just because I use real music behind. That's obviously different from the original commercial. There's sometimes it's almost a 1-to-1 lift, and other times it's completely different, and I'm just taking like 10,000 parts from all these other things and making something out of it. But no, it's you just never ever run into the visuals there, because that's at its core, commercials want to be seen and spammed everywhere and stuff. And so if I'm using source footage of something that's just naturally does that, then
right,
there's just no monitor on that. There's no way to do it. It's just kind of a neat way of getting around that.
Well, that's good, because I was kind of wondering that, like, how if you've had any issues, because like I have another channel that's like more movie focused, and I've had in the past multiple issues where you're like fighting. It's like, no, this is fair use. This is how I've transformed the content, Yeah. So that's why I was just kind of like curious to see how that's affected you, if any.
Yeah, no, just musically. A lot of the stuff I do, the bottom line is I'll be like, do I want to make 40 cents off of this a week, or do I want the best thing out there? And I always go with the best thing out there, and then I don't make any money. And it's because I'll use a real professional music library, and that's why the commercials sound good, and mix it right and that sort of thing. So yeah, I definitely I think I could have been a lot greedier, but it would have really diminished the product. And in the end, I don't know. I don't think they would have been as successful and whatnot. So, yeah, I often tease, like, my goal is to just be this like 80-year-old, just true wizard with like, goatee and a long cloak, just this old man with all this knowledge, and I'll still be streaming in like 20 or 30 years.
That'd be dope.
Just like get the Guinness Book of World Record for most persistent streamer or something like that. I don't know. Probably won't even be a thing then. People will just have like contact lenses with like video screens,
some wild
portraying
like
what they're
Black
feeling
Mirror.
or seeing. But yeah, oh boy, that you said it there. That is some of the best media ever seen. It's up there with Twilight. When Twilight Zone was a thing. It's just, good God, every one of their episodes. It was just there's a few flops, but man, that is some strong programming. All right, I think I've worn through the edicts. Let's see if I can muster up this other ability here. Let's do this and here. Bloop. Come on, be something good. All right. Well, let's see if I can survive. You got the loop, don't you?
No, I don't have a creature in hand.
Yeah, but you can get it, right? With when it dies, create a food.
I don't have a way to return.
Can't you sack the cauldron and then sack the cow when it dies? The cauldron comes back if you sack your egg.
Yeah, I could loop. I think I might be able to get it to loop here.
I don't think that list needs the mires or the grotto. I think the swamps are just. I think it could be streamlined if you just added more basics.
Yeah, I think the thing with the grotto is to try and scry before you draw to like dig for some pieces.
Yeah, I just feel like consistency,
that's
it'd be better as a swamp, and same with the mire.
Could very well be.
I mean, you've got the bargain dispute thing and the stars too. I mean, that's and the golden egg and the refractor. That's a lot of draw built in. Rather just have raw draw than a scry. All right, refractor, I see ya.
That's the fourth one.
I can do.
Dang. All right, let me see here.
Forget how many edicts this deck has.
I think I have 3. I think I have 1 left somewhere.
Let's see what I can do here. Pretty dead in the water. Let me see
if I can get. No.
Got it. You got it.
I don't think I do. I think I'm going to be 1 shy. Because I can.
That's another. You'll never see me playing like a lot of super grindy long decks because it's just so hard to, have all 5 rounds go like an hour plus.
Right.
and then yeah, it's like I have a lot of spoof commercials and stuff, but I don't have that many. It's like that's a lot of air to fill. Sometimes it happens naturally, but I'm not going to go into it like playing because Tortured Existence in real life is an amazing deck, but God, online it's just like
it's a pain.
Outside of this style, it's just good God,
I've come to realize some of my favorite decks are like what you said. Like Torex is one of my favorite pauper decks ever, and it's like, one game could just end up being like 45 minutes. It's like,
yeah. My son's a really good Tortured Existence pilot, and on kitchen tabletop, demonstrate the loops and whatnot, and it's brutal. But man, like I said, it's one of those. Categorize it under arthritis deck, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh. There it is. 1 more to get through. Yep, I've got the win in hand if I can attack next turn, but you got me here. I've got a solid footing, double Nimbus Wings, Benevolent Blessing, and Ethereal Armor. This is a beautiful hand if I could untap. Check it out.
Oh,
that solid footing that's just like 1 swing win in the air. All right, let's see what I've got to do here. Can't really think out loud, but like listening.
Outside of Magic, have you played any other card games or games? And like, what are some of your hobbies outside of Magic and commercials and music?
Yeah, those are big ones. We have a game night about once a week here. We play everything from Bridge to Rummy Cube to Settlers of Catan to Carcassonne to literally just about every 313 is one of my very favorite games. A little simple card game, but just quite a hoot. Yeah, a lot of games. My wife and I both like a lot of games. I have I also taught martial arts for a while. I took martial arts all growing up and did a lot of gymnastics too. Gymnastics first, and then I got into martial arts because any kid in the 80s wanted to do all the Jean-Claude Van Damme or Bruce Lee style stuff, and yeah, that was good times. But so yeah, a lot of that. But that feels like a lifetime ago. I remember when the UFC first came out. Yeah, to rent them on like VHS and stuff, and my friends would come over and
Right on.
we'd put in $5 bets or whatever, and I'd always go for the jiu-jitsu guy because nobody could even pronounce it, and having had a background in that, I knew like this really works. This isn't like some hope the guy does this and fall in line with we even have a Pauperganda skit on that called it's in the Magic Frame called Fake Master, and it's all these spiritual kung fu healers that are like just tapping people, and they're like doing cartwheels backwards and just the most ridiculous stuff. What was that?
Steven Seagal.
Yeah. The poster boy, if he's not dyeing his goatee to the 9th level of deep black, it looks so unnatural. It does. Makes you cringe whenever I see that.
There's a movie where somebody did a review on it, and like the entire movie is just him sitting down, pretty much.
Yeah,
he's not even doing anything.
But yeah, so I really liked martial arts, and like I said, I got a black belt in a Hawaiian Kempo style that had a lot of jiu-jitsu stand-up game, not so much the ground stuff. And I taught that for a tiny little bit. Thought I wanted to be a kickboxer until I got punched for real the first time. I was like, that's not fun. So quickly
that's a no for
shelved
me, dog.
that dream. What was that?
I said that's a no for me, dog.
Yeah, big time. I was just like, yeah, not having that. So, but no, it's a lot of fun physical stuff in the past, as far as always like in fitness and stuff. Like my oldest took, he was almost on this next Olympics coming up, and I'm not saying that lightly. The two, Sam Miller and I forget the other one. They're going to be two of the guys in the men's Olympic team, and excuse me. And he trained regularly with them. He'd get first, they'd get second, he'd get first, all the time. And he just, similar to some streamers we were just talking about, just got burned out. Mm-hmm. It was, the gymnastics schedule on a child is, it
probably pretty rough.
About, oh God, it starts getting to be like 5-6 hours a day. And, just super grind. So he fell in love with basketball, and with his dad clocking in at a massive 5'9" in the morning, he didn't have much of a chance to play too competitively. He was a very good point guard and amazing shooter and had great handles, but genetics unfortunately is a big advantage in the height category of that game. So, but yeah, he was the real gymnast of the family. But those are two other little, I guess, what would you call them, side things I was interested in. So
that's cool.
Good times. What are we on? This is game 3, right?
Yep, we're on game 3.
All right. I'll have to hang it up after this, but it's been a hoot. Don't forget to email me whatever other things you need, and I'll get those to you within the next day.
Yep.
My voice is losing its luster.
So I wanted to ask too, with you being so much into deck building and stuff, you talk about Boros Bully and Stompy and stuff kind of finding its own legs. How does it make you feel when when you get that deck put together and you're like, we finally have something here that's going to be in the meta, and then 2 is seeing all these other people have success with it?
Oh, it's about as good as you think it would feel. I forget what, I think it's in the poker movie Rounders. They say money won is twice as sweet as money earned. Mm-hmm. And it kind of feels like that. It's the gift that keeps giving. It's I'd be lying if I said, it's all right. It's amazing. It's pretty cool. The biggest thing was right after, when Boros Bully really took off, was when I went up to play the Mox Boarding House Seattle tournament, and went up there, and like 60% of the metagame was Boros Bully. They had an official graphic and everything, and there's videos on our YouTube page about that, and you can find online and stuff. But it was such an amazing, magical event, because it just came full circle when I was just like, holy crap, this is really, really becoming a thing. And like every other player was playing it, and I ended up getting second place, losing to Tron in the finals, but which was cool, going all that way.
Yeah.
And then representing well too. It would have been kind of embarrassing to go up there and crash and burn, but it was something to see that graphic. I was like, oh my God, look at this. This is just crazy to see these things going down. But let me do this on here instead. at least get you for 2. See if you can bring that thing back or not. But yeah, no, that's like I said, it's. But again, the second it became popular, I was just like, okay, how do I beat that?
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't want to be playing no deck everybody else is playing. I've always been just a crazy. What's the word? Where you always want to do the opposite. I call myself it all the time, and I can't quite remember what the word is now. But yeah, if everybody's going right, I'm going to go left. That sort of thing.
Yeah, I get you.
Different for different sakes sometimes. To a fault sometimes, sometimes it could be a very obvious choice, and hopefully I can see the light when it comes to like if it's like a big tournament or whatnot. But yeah, Magic Online really helped me understand Magic better because I have a bit of dyslexia, and I get things pretty turned around sometimes with the rules. And my friend at the time, Paul, still my friend, Paul Grassoff, who goes by the moniker Sir Ramses Toothmaker of Chatsuk, which is a character in a board game that takes about 48 hours to complete.
Wow.
That's a whole nother podcast. But anyway, he was always trying to explain to me, and I was pretty thick trying to understand it. And so when Magic Online first came out, they had all these transparent arrows to kind of show you like, okay, this is happening here, and now this. And I was just like blown away. I was just like, oh my God, this is like, I understood. And then right after that, I started, making a lot less errors, and because visually I could see it. It wasn't something I had to read or read rules about and stuff like that. So yeah, that was just night and day for me there. All right, hopefully this guy gets through. Oh yeah, I gotcha. I think. Here comes 7. Infect. First strike. Wazam with Billy Idol next to him. Talk about finishing with style. Oh no, does that gain life? It doesn't matter. But it can block.
Yep.
Darn it.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Alrighty. I'm glad I got edict food out there.
Yeah, the lone missionary.
Nice play. I thought I had you. Yeah, it was either go for the win or go for protection. There's a Infect is traditionally like that kind of explosive style, but there's usually an inevitability that this list can gain over time, where it's just similar to slivers, where they just get too big and out of control. But when it becomes infect damage, then it's a big problem.
Don't know if I'm going to get there. I'm going to try.
I can't believe they printed Energy Refractor. I think they had just banned Prism to keep Tron kind of at least, decently beatable. And then it's like, we're just going to print a better version of it now. It's just like, I know they don't really have Pauper hard on their radar, but
yeah. Do you think like if Magic kind of put Pauper in a little bit more of a spotlight, like into like GPs or tournaments, like big tournaments like that, do you think like Pauper would be a good format to kind of get people more interested in the game because of its low price point?
For the price point, yes. For the breadth of cards, no.
Dang.
I think that would actually it's pretty daunting when you look at the card pool. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely for the price, and I think that would end up winning out. But yeah, I would love to see that. And talk about a cash cow. All they have to do is print like a Pauper Masters or something, right?
Right.
And you're just nobody's chasing rares. Nobody's doing anything other than just you can kind of flood the market that doesn't mind being flooded, outside of maybe Lotus Petal or something. But they're still going to kind of retain that little price bump, and just kind of promote it. And like you said, maybe have one main event like that, because then you get somebody like a John Finkel or somebody that's like seeing it like I do, but in a whole nother level of like, what about this? With that big of a card pool, if you put the price purse high enough, somebody might be able to come out of the woodwork with something completely different. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's always been a dream of mine. But hey, look at like Pauperganda in Italy, with a couple of thousand people playing and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, maybe one of these years I got to make it out there.
Yeah,
Be a
Italy,
good
that'd
time.
be cool, but it'd be a little expensive for at least for
Oh
me.
yeah,
That'd be a hell of a trip, but
for
it'd
sure,
be
for sure.
be a good excuse to go. Um,
You got it.
but playing Magic and stuff for so long, is it you've shared it with a lot of people, you've inspired a lot of people and stuff. I think, especially being content creation and stuff, you've been doing it for so long, and it feels like everybody I think who is in the Pauper world probably knows who you are, and you have Pauperganda is probably like the best Pauper name to like be able to
Yeah,
latch onto. Um,
yeah.
but like,
That was
what's
a big aha moment where it didn't
right?
even feel like I thought of it. It was like somebody put the seed in my brain because I was chatting with Little Fight on Magic Online, and he just randomly, and he meant to say it, the word propaganda, and he spelled it right and everything, and I was like, oh my god, I gotta go, and I just logged off, and I went and I made like probably 10 of the graphics that are in the intro still to this day, because it was such a eureka moment where I was
Yeah,
just like, if I had 10,000 more years, I couldn't come up with a better name than that.
right. It's a good one. And just before I continue on, just real quick, how did you come up with Deluxeicoff?
That's a pretty lame story. Because of my chess background, my one of my friends, when the internet first became a thing, you had to do the whole dial-up. Chess was a program you could load and play with your friends. It was one of the first ones you could do that with. His name online, his real name's Casey Green, but his name online was Prokofiev, which was some famous composer, Russian sounding, but it sounded like kind of like, with Kasparov at the time and everything. It was like, oh man, I want to sound like some, hardcore chess playing Russian badass. So
Yeah.
I've always liked the word deluxe. And so with my atrocious spelling and dyslexic issues, I even misspelled my own name. To this day, my wife always rolls her eyes. She goes, it's I before E, and, all those little rules and stuff. So I just put the word deluxe and then tried to make it sound Russian at the end with a cough, and and so when Magic Online came about, I was used to it, and so I just used it. God, I wish I could change it, but especially like I was telling you, when I have a cold or something, I always get all the cough jokes,
Yeah.
Deluxe,
Right. It's a little bit
which
more
happens every few years.
verbal rather than just read.
Yeah, exactly.
But to go back to that, having the channel and stuff, and you've been able to grow to a pretty reasonable size. What's something that you would want to say to like your viewers and your longtime fans and like fellow players who kind of got inspired by you?
Oh, it really just means the world to me. Every night I'll log on and somebody somewhere will just be like, "Oh my God, big fan, blah blah blah." It just warms my heart. Just like you were saying, all those, by this hundreds of thousands of hours at this point of whether I'm playing or editing something for or coming up with, some custom video on a deck list or whatever, and it's just it's just a nice steady. I just really really appreciate the love, and it just kind of refills the coffers, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the simplest little outpouring like that just means the world to me, and it's not why I got into this, but it sure is a nice side effect.
Yeah, you were definitely one of them that was on my list. I want to venture off to like other formats and stuff too to talk to people, but Pauper is where I've really have kind of refound my love of the game, because I took like a 3-year hiatus of the game. The store around me kind of dried up a little bit. Then my friends and stuff, we all work different schedules, so it's hard to get together, and then COVID happened and everything. So I was like,
Right.
I kind of rekindled with Magic Online and leaned into the Pauper, because I was like, well, it's really cheap, so I'll check this out. And then was like,
Yeah.
I just love the power level and the format and everything.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to get through some of the Pauper people. So it was like just nice coincidence.
There's
I
no
ran
going
into
back when you show somebody that knows Magic Pauper, because it's just all upside. There's just nothing. It's so hard to have any sort of complaint about it, because it checks all the boxes, and everybody I've ever shown it to or talked to, they all agree. It's crazy.
Right. And that's what, I was like, I was planning on eventually like reaching out to you, and then I just ran into you. So I was like, hey, weird question. It's like I'm starting up this series and like just happened to run into you. So
honored to do it, my friend. And that being said, I got to head out to dinner here, but and as
Yep.
the sun is setting and the vampires are coming out.
Well, thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Where can people, if they don't know you, which it would be surprising, but if they don't, how can they find you? What are you on? What are your socials? They'll be in the description, but I figure we'll have you say it too.
Really the only two we've got are, if you want to catch us live and be part of the community as it's being recorded, twitch.tv/Pauperganda or youtube.com/Pauperganda. Those are our two big hubs, keeping it really simple. And like I said, if you do go to the YouTube, make sure to tinker over to that community tab, because there's a lot of ideas being thrown around. Or sometimes one of the big things that I was very surprised, I was digitally cleaning stuff, and I found some old notes for, I think like Boros Bully and a few other my first builds, all time stamped and very honest, just like, okay, this worked, this didn't work. Today I got squished by blankety blank, or today was a real successful. And it was like 5 pages long or something, and no single space and everything. And man, people just ate that stuff up. I just thought it was cannon fodder, and they'd just be like, I don't care about this, but I wish I had done it more often. But sometimes I'll just find old relics like that hanging off in the attic of the digital world and throw some stuff up. So if you like nostalgia, you can look there for that.
Right on. Well, thanks, man. Thank you very much. I super appreciate it.
You betcha. Thanks for reaching out, and we'll play together soon.
I just want to thank Deluxeicoff, aka Pauperganda, for doing this once again. If you want to check him out live on Twitch, he does his show every Saturday. You can also follow him on YouTube. His content is great. His decks are also super fun. All of his links will be in the description down below, along with all my links as well. If you want to support me and this channel, you can consider becoming a member. It's a great way to do so. It's $1 a month, or you can subscribe right here for free. That's another great way to do it. Hopefully I'll catch you next time, and I hope you enjoyed this interview and this conversation. I sure did. And I'll catch you later. Peace.